Advent Calendar is a French-language horror film about a woman named Ava who receives an advent calendar as a birthday present from her friend. It's filled with chocolates and an ominous message. It tells her that there are 3 simple rules to follow. If you eat one chocolate, you have to eat all of them, or you die. If you throw away the box, you die. You have to obey all of the rules up until you open the last door, or you die. The rest of the film is about her journey through the month of December, opening the doors and eating the chocolates one day at a time, which, naturally, causes one disaster after another. As her life is improved by the chocolates, everyone around her suffers horrible fates. Which brings me to the obvious question. What's going on with this movie? It's all fairly oblique, so it's completely understandable if you were to watch this movie and come away thinking that it's just another be careful what you wish for story about a character having wishes granted by a demon that takes things in exchange. Basically, a much better version of Wishmaster. There's actually something much more complex going on here, though, so let's start with just who made sure that the Advent calendar would end up with Eva in the first place, and is therefore ultimately responsible for everything that happens. Put simply, everything that Ava goes through is a test that God and probably the devil are giving her in order to see whether she would give up her soul to get what she wanted most in the world, the use of her legs. The evidence for this interpretation is fairly abundant. The force controlling the box refers to itself as Ich, which is of course German for I, how God refers to himself primarily in the Bible. While it's true that the I here could be a demon of some kind, simply referring to itself while giving out the rules, the opening epigram of the film refers to the creator of the calendar specifically as I, as if that's his name, which serves as a clear reference to God. The main character is named Eva, a version of Eve, the woman from the Bible who was tempted by Satan. The chocolate that looks like the baby Jesus literally comes with a note saying that Jesus will make the crippled walk again. She has to sacrifice her beloved dog, which is then cremated, a literal burnt offering of meat to God. When hospitalized, Ava gives a chocolate shaped like a communion wafer to a woman suffering from religious mania, and it immediately causes the woman to find peace. The company she invests in is called Infinite Signum, literally meaning sign of the infinite. And since God is the only infinite thing, she invests in a sign from God, which is what happens whenever more money appears in the account. When William tries to dispose of the box, the sky turns black and the river turns purple-reddish, and then a beast rises from the water. These are references to the Book of Revelations. The final scene in the movie is a reference to Jesus' moment of doubt on the mountaintop, where the devil shows him the whole world that can be his, so long as he's willing to abandon God. Although in this scene, the devil is represented by the super douchey pool guy she just had sex with. The most crucial evidence, however, is in the scene where the banker assaults her. The amount of money he puts in her account to use on the trading software is 457 euros. Now, anytime you see a weird number show up in a story, it's going to be relevant. And if it's not directly explained within the plot, it's usually going to be numerology or a Bible verse relevant to the situation. This one wasn't particularly hard to track down because it could only be chapter 4, verse 57, or chapter 45, verse 7. Spoiler alert, there's almost no chapter 45s or verse 57s in the Bible. There is one in Isaiah, however, and as you can see, it ties directly into the question of who's responsible for all of this. I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. The lamb and the tiger, the sun and the shadow, God made all of it. So what's really going on here? As we learn from the scene with the painter, Ava isn't unique. This has all happened before, and the painter passed the test. The most likely explanation is this. Every year, around Christmas, God tests a human to see if they are pure and worthy of their soul. A person who desperately wants something is chosen. In 2019, it was a painter who had gone blind. In 2020, it's a dancer who'd lost the use of her legs. And over the course of December, they're ordered to do horrible things by God. A common thread throughout the Old Testament, with the assurance that God will reward them if they follow his commands. It's likely that Satan or whatever demon is running the test is putting their thumb on the scale a little. Not merely allowing her to communicate with her father, but having her father outright say that killing him and the other people is fine. And then at the end, when she's gone through the ordeal, and is able to go back and erase all of her evil deeds, a metaphorical Satan arrives to make a pitch. Sure, you could go back to your old life where you were miserable, but you hadn't yet sinned and everyone will come back to life. But what if, instead, you just take the win no matter how you got it? You're rich, you have your physical capabilities returned to you. Yeah, some people are dead, but what does it matter? You've got yours. So at the very last moment, the person must choose between earthly or spiritual rewards. Will they stay pure and hold on to their soul, or will they give it over to Satan and abandon God? In 2019, the painter chose his family and his soul. As for Ava, we don't find out what she did. We just see that a year later, in 2021, a man shows up at her house holding a baby because he's the next selected victim of God's test. And he went looking for Ava because she left a message in the advent calendar, just as Ava had gone looking for the painter 1 year earlier. That's all pretty clearly implied or explained by the film. But there's one thing that the film doesn't explain. Who is this weirdo? You could say that it's God. After all, the box says that I will kill you if it's tampered with or you break rules. And he does do the killing. Not to mention that he literally has Ich written on the back of his head. This simple of a solution seems unlikely, however, considering that we see the thing napping somewhere strange, and it only wakes up when someone begins the test by opening the box and having a chocolate. So unless God is napping 11 months out of the year, it's probably not him. It's a little more likely that the Ich here refers to the fact that this thing's authority to run the test and kill people comes from God, which means that this could be Satan, since that's what Satan did to Job. He killed a bunch of people and wrecked everything, all with God's permission. It literally being Satan is a bit of a stretch as well, though, because the thing has numbers from the advent calendar carved into its skin, along with the Masonic logo, for some reason. So I'd say that the most likely explanation for it is that it's a purpose-built angel or demon that exists specifically to run the test and kill people who attempt to interfere. Of course, there's no way to know for sure, just as we can't definitely say whether Ava went through with eating the final chocolate or not. Oh, and there's one other bit of evidence that doesn't tie in directly, but I think it's worth mentioning. In the same scene where we get the Bible reference from the banker's money, we also get a good look at the vehicle's license plate. GLRG856. This is likely another Bible reference, this time to Kings chapter 8, verse 56. Praise be to the Lord, who has given rest to his people Israel, just as he promised. Not one word has failed of all the good promises he gave through his servant Moses. While it doesn't tie in as closely as the Ezekiel quote from earlier, the message is fairly clear. God keeps up his side of the bargain. If you're right with God, God will do what he promised. So that's what's going on beneath the surface of Advent Calendar. You know, there's a lot of Christmas horror movies out there. I think it might be fair to say that Advent Calendar is the most biblically literate of all of them, which is something of a feat. I've been the Hidden Object Guru, thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, please remember to like and subscribe. Special thanks go out to my patrons, Marissa, Eduardo, Brian, and Joanne. If there's any other movies you'd like to see explained, please let me know in the comment section below the video. I'll see you back here for the next thing, but until then, au revoir.